So here the guy is bleeding on the floor, unconscious, and they go behind the counter, and they fix themselves lunch. And they sit down and have a lovely lunch while the guy's still passed out there bleeding, okay? And when it's done, they finish, and they go to the counter, and they figure out how much, what they ate, and they leave the exact change on the counter. No tip, the service had been lousy. But nonetheless, you know, there it was. But again, imagine what that's like.
Then getting court-martialed for it.
Yeah. Well, let's say that particular incident was
Isolated?
Well, not mentioned a lot. It was it was thought as kind of tongue-in-cheek amusing, you know, sort of degree. But yeah, it could get you in real trouble doing that too. But anyway, so it's. But I mean, you could imagine what it's like. Now imagine this. Imagine, so you're already getting this kind of weird feeling like, oh my God, I can't. You know, for some people, particularly the young black men from the north, this is an eye opener, right?
In Kansas, anyway.
Yeah, or they are. But then they end up shipping out to Cuba, and then something else happens. So here you are in your segregated units, right? You're separate from everybody else. You got a limit on how high you can go, and then you begin to meet some of the Cuban rebels who you're coordinating with. Now remember, you've been told how awful life is for these rebels, how they desperately need the freedom that America offers, how you're there to free these poor oppressed rebels. Not all the people who live in Cuba are of Hispanic descent. In fact, some people from Cuba were ex-slaves who had been brought in by the Spanish. And guess what? Some of the leaders of the rebels were black. Imagine that. Here it is, you are being told how oppressed these people are, and the people who are so oppressed have more rights than you do. Imagine what that does to your mind. Imagine how dissonant that is, okay? And so when the soldiers come home from this war, they expect to be treated as heroes. They expect that things are going to get better. Do they get better? No, okay? This is going to be the pattern. World War I, World War II, okay? World War II we finally see at the very end of it, integration, right, okay? But until we get integration of the services, we're not going to have. By presidential order, by the way, which we're always told that's a terrible thing, but clearly it seemed to work in this case, okay?
Was it Eleanor pushing Roosevelt?
Yeah, but it wasn't Roosevelt himself, you know, it's Truman, so, you know, it's, because he's, you know.
Tuskegee Airmen and...
Yeah, well, that's in and of itself. That's another story. Okay, so let's not World War II ourselves yet. Okay, we'll get there. Port Tuskegee, you have the airmen, and then you have the syphilis experiments, and so Port Tuskegee has that name that's attached to it. It's like, all right. Anyway, you all have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, bless you. Okay, like I said, that book thing that you were supposed to read, it would be great too. No, okay, never mind. Why not? Okay. So that's okay. It just means I have more history to teach you in the very last days. So much history, so little time. Okay. I'm going to start having an extension course. I think like an extra 3 weeks of material I'm just going to put online and let you all just have it and say, oh, for our Jeopardy quiz, you know, let's have Janelle plus 12. Okay. So what the hell is that thing? Oh, so for after World War I, do you think it's any surprise that after World War I there are race riots in some of the major cities? After World War II, we tend to think of the civil rights movement as being from the 50s and 60s, but if you see documentaries like Eyes on the Prize, you'll recognize, which by the way is a brilliant series. It's very long, but I mean it's a documentary that runs like for 13 or 18 hours. It's really long. But the thing was, when it was being filmed, they actually were able to get, I mean, so many people from the civil rights movement were alive, and they were able to interview them and have these original, and one of the early ones talks about these guys who come back from World War II, and a lot of the early organizers for civil rights are in the late 40s, early 50s, who are ex-military, who once again have these rising expectations that their heroism during World War II would prove that they should be more equal. And when that doesn't happen, they take the skills that they learned during the war and those organizing things and begin to lay the groundwork for what becomes the civil rights movement. Okay, so there's a definite pattern here. And by the way, it's not just African Americans. I mean, blacks are the easy example, but imagine being Japanese during World War II. If you're a Japanese American, okay? You're Japanese American, what do we say during World War II? You're a traitor, okay? You're a traitor just by the fact that that is your background. And so into the camp with you. You know, you lose your job, your family loses their home, you're having to sell off your stuff, or neighbors say, oh, we'll keep your stuff. They just you didn't know they meant permanently, okay? You're tossed in these internment camps. And yet, even as America is saying, by the very nature of your background, that you are a traitor and have to be moved to these internment camps, and yet young men from these internment camps, what do?
Volunteer.
They volunteer to serve our country. I mean, what remarkable patriotism. To say, even when your country says you're a traitor, you're willing to go out and prove otherwise. Now, we let them serve, but when we let them serve, we didn't let them serve in the Pacific Theater, because apparently, if we had a Japanese America and touch Japanese soil, it would become instant traitor, okay? Traitor, just add soil, okay? It's something in the water. I don't know.
There was also the thought that if a white American soldier saw a Japanese,
yeah, so they would be likely to shoot them. Yeah, just kaboom. Yeah. So the idea was at least they would be identified as American troops over in Italy and Germany and elsewhere. And so, but guess what? They're sent to the European theater, and our single most decorated unit of the European theater is a Japanese American unit. Okay, which, by the way, when they come back home, do they come back home to ticker tape parades and no, they come back home and half their families are still in internment camps. Imagine that. Just imagine how you feel about that. And not just that, gay soldiers. Okay, gay soldiers. World War II, they started drumming out gay soldiers. They said, oh, there must be things as gays. Okay, and they actually started systematically removing them with these blue papers, with the dishonorable discharge papers for psychiatric reasons, and they were, because apparently all gay people are psychopathic, you see. And so they had these blue discharge papers, and they became known amongst themselves as the Blue Angels for the blue discharge papers that they were being given. And even today, you see gay soldiers that, you know, they say, oh, I've served in Iraq, I've served in Afghanistan, I served in Desert Storm. Clearly, I can now, as I'm you have these high-ranking people who are coming out who say, I have medals, I've served honorably. Clearly, I can come out and I will be respected and honored. And instead, what do?
Kick them out.
Yeah, we kick them out and take away their pensions. Good job. You know, so this thing is the same for various different minority groups throughout history. So yes, the Vietnam experience is really important to talk about, but realize that it's kind of sad that we claim it's only a Vietnam War experience, when in reality for minority soldiers this has been happening long before, and it continues for non-majority groups. Okay, so just be aware of that. Just be aware that it's out there, and that sometimes can be, we just have to be cogent of the fact that it's there. But we do win the war, and we get cool shit out of it, so we're good, okay? We get Puerto Rico, which I apologize, on your outline, I think I put Puerto Rico, I think I was hungry, okay? Also Guam, which is the postage stamp of the Pacific, but it's cool, okay? Anybody ever been to Guam? I've had some since I've been, okay. And how big is Guam?
That big.
Yeah. Thank you for using that finger. But yeah, it's like 15 miles wide, 30 miles long. You cannot get lost in Guam. If somebody says, "Oh, what's the way to somebody's house?" You can just say, "Oh, go to the shore and turn left. Keep on going, or turn right. Fuck either way." You can't get lost in Guam. That's all there is to it. We got Cuba, which technically we're going to give back to the Cubans, right? Now, of course, we said all you have to do is create your constitution, you get your country. And then the Cubans make a constitution. And then we're like, okay, all right, I'm sorry, we should have clarified. This is kind of, I'm sorry. When we said make a constitution, we meant make a constitution we like, okay? Then we passed what's called the Platt Amendment. And the Platt Amendment says, if you want to have your country back, you will add these pro-American statements to your Constitution or else. It's like a game of keep away, okay? And of course, eventually, the Cubans will add these things that we specifically tell them they have to put in, and then we'll give Cuba back. For a while. We'll reinvade later, because it's fun, okay?
Didn't just one senator introduce that bill?
Platt, P-L-A-T-T, yeah. That's why it's called the Platt Amendment.
Platt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so as a result, so that's the entertainment, okay? That's fun. So Guam and Puerto Rico, those were easy.